a global mission pioneer in Thailand, a church planter in the United States, a church planting expert, and a writer who has traveled the globe gathering the best mission stories. All that and much more coming up next on Mission 360. Every Saturday or Sabbath, Seventh-day Adventists around the world focus on mission and they give mission offerings. And every 3 months, Adventists focus on special initiatives called the 13th Sabbath Offering Projects. But they're really just a fraction of the breadth of Adventist mission work taking place all around the world. There are so many exciting things happening, and if it weren't for faithful Adventists giving their mission offerings each week, we wouldn't see the wonderful things happening in education, hospitals, clinics, church planting, global missions, so much more. And so today, we want to share with you an exciting story about urban mission. The mission challenge of the cities is growing every day, and the vast majority of people now live in cities. And we as Adventists and so many other Christians have traditionally tended to focus more on rural areas, in villages and on islands. But now as we focus on the cities, we need to look increasingly at how we can touch people's lives for Jesus. So let's visit a pastor in North America and see how he is touching lives by following the method of Jesus in mingling, showing sympathy, ministering to physical needs, winning confidence, and then bidding people to follow Jesus Christ.
I was asked to come into the city of Cleveland and plant a church, and I was told that you need to live in the community that you're going to plant a church. Many pastors don't even live in the communities where their churches are. So I live less than a mile from this place. I live in the community. I shop and walk the streets and get engaged in this community. People know me. And what we do here won't work everywhere. I know that. You can't take and replicate this in New York City or in Atlanta, Georgia. Most of the people that I minister to here would not fit in a traditional, rural, small town Adventist church. These people are low education, low income, been on social services all their lives, and you are not going to turn them into a middle class, educated Seventh-day Adventist. The people that I'm ministering to don't get it, and they won't get it just because I come in and give a health seminar or an evangelistic campaign. They need me to walk alongside of them. But I think that what we're doing here, at least in Cleveland and in the area that I'm familiar with, is reproducible. And it is effective. Now, as far as baptisms and all of that, this is a long-term ministry. Have we gotten baptisms? Absolutely. I've gotten, over the last 4 years of doing this, about a dozen baptisms that where people have come to me and said, I want to be a part of this. And so we take them through, and Eric is a great example of a person who came in off the streets, a person who was an alcoholic and destitute, who was homeless, and he was impacted by our compassion, not by our theological acumen. And today he is just an amazing example of what can happen if you spend some time and you care about these people.
Yeah, and I remember when I asked Kevin to baptize me. It was, I don't know, it's just when first time I shook Kevin's hand, it was, there was just something there. There was just something about this place that kept wanting me to come back. And I'm glad I did. Like I said, it's, I don't take any credit for my sobriety. It was all God. Wasn't just me letting God in and doing for me what I can't do for myself, I wouldn't be sober today.
I was in church one day during the week working on some things, and I noticed it was in the winter. There were some people out front at the bus stop. And I asked them if they wanted to come in for a hot drink and a pastry, because I had some leftover pastries. And that's how the breakfast ministry started about 2.5 years ago, was just simply inviting some cold people at the bus stop to come in for a hot drink. from that, we ended up with our breakfast ministry, which is now 4 days a week. We want to make it 5. We get from 10 to, today we had 35 people show up. Coming in, we serve them a hot breakfast. We try to serve them a healthy breakfast. Saturdays, we still serve a community meal. On average, we have about 1,000 community members who walk through the door of our church every month. Do people have a dependency on us because of our services? Yes, to some extent. But they know us by name. When people come in today for the food pantry, and I'm walking around, people are calling me reverend or father or pastor or whatever. They know who I am and they know what we are. They know the name Seventh-day Adventist. They are not turned off by it. They're not offended by it. They frequently take our literature. We give away cases of literature a month because at our foyer we have this literature rack of all kinds of Seventh-day Adventist literature. We give away all kinds of Signs of the Times magazines. People know us. They connect the logo and the name, and they're reading our materials. And people are taking it because they want it, not because we send it to their door and they throw it away. They're coming in and reading our material, and the reason they're doing that is because they've got a relationship. They've put a face and flesh and bones to a name, Seventh-day Adventist. And yeah, we have a great reputation in this community.
I have a flyer up here in case any of you are interested. We're starting Bible studies on Wednesday mornings after breakfast. It's open to everybody. So we'd like to invite you to grab a flyer.
You are not going to break into those communities, do a big event, and then just drive out. And if you've got a lot of people driving in, coming to that church, you will never make the connections in the community that we have done by being here, this ministry of presence. And that's the mentality or the message of ministry of healing. You know, Jesus' method alone is that you have to walk alongside these people, and some of them for quite a while, to build trust, confidence, so that they can listen to what you have to share.
My guest is Dr. Dave Gemmell, who is the Associate Director of the Ministerial Association here in North America. Dave, thanks for joining our program.
It's a joy to be with you, Gary.
You're a pastor whose business is pastors. You're concerned about churches that work and make a difference.
Absolutely.
I noticed that in recent times, the North American division of the church has been talking about transformational evangelism. What is meant by that?
Yeah, it's kind of a big word.
It is a big phrase.
It simply means discipleship.
Okay.
It simply means getting in people's lives and leading towards Jesus. That's all it means.
So you're trying to encourage, motivate, resource churches to be involved in this.
Yeah, you know, there's this crazy thing called church, and it is probably, you know, the tool that we can team up all of our resources and get involved in a community to do discipleship. It's hard doing it by ourselves. So I think that's why God gave us this thing called a church. So churches that are transformational are churches that do discipleship well. They're able to get engaged in the community, find out what the community needs, and look at themselves and find out what resources they have to offer the community, and then to deploy those resources out into the community. So they're really making a difference in people's lives. Physical needs, emotional needs, educational needs, and of course, spiritual needs.
Mm-hmm. Give me an example of a church that's doing that.
Well, a church that I can think of right off the top of my head is Paradise Valley Church in the San Diego area. It's an old church, but the demographics were changing, and so the attendance in the church went down, and they were just trying to figure out what they should do, and suddenly it dawned on them, yeah, the demographics are changing.
Right.
What are the needs of the people around them? And they discovered that it is a place where refugees have come from all over the world who have tremendous needs for language, needs for food, needs for education. And as they began to unpack those needs one by one and deployed the resources right within that church, They made a huge impact in the community, and as a result, the church is growing. They're baptizing 50 or 100 people every year. It's fun to go to that church and hear all the different languages and people that are growing in their relationship with Jesus and getting settled here in this country as well.
It's a big change for a church to refocus, because you're always going to have some who say, no, we want it the way we've always had it, right?
It's true, and the trouble is we can never go back in time.
Right.
Because time moves on. If we're stuck in some place in history, that's not going to happen because we're not there, history's not there, and so we have to deal with the change that comes our way.
So sometimes the best alternative is to start a new congregation, to plant a new church.
Absolutely, and it may be that a congregation is simply just not equipped, whether their mission or their placement or their personnel or their staff or even their location is just not working anymore. So sometimes we have to plant new churches. One that comes to the top of my mind is a brand new one in the hipster part of Chicago, and they rent out schools or wherever they can get their hands on a place to meet, theaters, and it is designed for people that are second-generation immigrants. It's a very unique demographic group because they don't quite fit in with their mother culture and they don't quite fit in with the culture that they're coming to. And so they've discovered here at this church called Epic that there's a great need for second-generation people that come to that city for community, and they're providing that community, and the church is growing. It's exciting.
So what sorts of things are they doing?
They're doing some tremendous discipleship. And one of the cool things that how one of the ministry outreaches I think is kind of neat. They stand on the street corner on Saturday afternoon, hold out a banner that says, "Free hugs."
Okay.
So these hipsters are walking up and down the street. They're kind of cool and aloof, but some of them haven't had the human touch in months, and they see that free hug sign, and they can't resist, and they go and they get a free hug, and then they're given some information about how they can get in touch with the free huggers and what that's all involved about, and how it's truly based on the love that Jesus Christ bestows upon the community.
And as you'd expect for these younger people, they're kind of connected digitally too with social media and keeping the contacts together pretty well.
At the bottom of the card that says free hugs, you can see the hashtag, and I forget what it is, hashtag free hugs or something like that, and it puts them in touch with the church family.
Fantastic. Now, also in Philadelphia, good things are happening. Tell me about that.
There is, and we alluded to that earlier, how there may be a church that's not equipped to reach a demographic group. So here's a church that wanted to reach a certain group, and they just couldn't. And they said, let's do this. Let us do a church plant just a few miles away and structure it in a way that will reach the people in that demographic group. So here we have a mother church that's doing fine with the group that it's meeting and planting another church that meets an entirely different group. It's called Reach Philadelphia, and it's fantastic. They go door to door to door in the neighborhood, just saying, hey, how's it going this week? What are some of the needs in your life? And they're not there to really preach or force anything on them. They're simply there to listen, find out what the needs are, and then they go back and find out, hey, which one of those needs can we meet? Maybe it's just changing a tire of a car or battery. Maybe it's getting into the Bible and studying about some of the richness that God has through His Word. Just a variety of reasons. It's called Reach Philadelphia. And
they're enlisting a lot of younger people in this project?
Yeah, as I went there, I felt like I was the senior citizen of the group, and you would too, Gary.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. But it was mostly young adults that were part of that, and that's the people that they were reaching.
In fact, if you're church planting, they say that the younger you are, the better you are, because you need the energy, right?
Oh, it's so consuming. Yeah. The energy is just incredible.
If our viewers want to find out more about transformational evangelism in North America, how can they find out more?
Well, I think if they could go to our website, just look up a North American Division. It is one of our initiatives called Transformational Evangelism, Wonderful. And you can find out a little bit more about what we're trying to do, and we'd love to have you join us in Transformational Evangelism here in North American Division.
Fantastic. Dave, thanks so much for sharing with us.
My pleasure.
Viewers at home, find out how you may be able to get involved in mission. Maybe there's just something that you can do in your neighborhood. Maybe there's something you can pray about. But whatever it is, and Dave would agree with me, we need to be involved. Welcome back to Mission 360. My guest is Charlotte Ishkanyan. For many years, Charlotte was editor of what we know in the Adventist Church as the Mission Quarterlies. It's Mission magazine, and this magazine is distributed in thousands of churches all around the world, and every Sabbath stories are read from this magazine. Charlotte, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So many years, I say so many years. How many years were you editor?
20 years.
Right, so you got to see many mission projects on the ground.
I did. And many needs.
Many needs. Charlotte, not so long ago you were traveling in India on the border with the country of Bhutan. Tell me about your visit.
Well, I can tell you the mosquitoes there are as big as flies.
Is that right?
I was very impressed with the work that's going on the border of Bhutan. Bhutan has always been a country close to my heart because historically there are very, very few Christians living in that country. Most of our work is in India along the border of Bhutan.
I remember visiting there maybe 12 years ago. We had no Adventist believers in the country. I remember walking across the border and spending a few hours there just taking pictures. And the thing that I remember is that the friendliness of the people, just beautiful people, children coming up to practice their English on me and just very welcoming.
That's wonderful. They are a happy people.
Yeah. Now, what sort of mission activity did you see?
Well, I spoke with a couple lay people, one global mission pioneer, a lady, and a man who's a lay evangelist. And I was very impressed
I'm going to interrupt you, Charlotte. Sorry. What is a global mission pioneer?
A global mission pioneer is basically a local person, a person working within his or her own culture who is receiving a small stipend in order to spend their full time sharing God's love with others.
And starting new congregations. Very good.
Starting new congregations.
Sorry for interrupting.
That's quite all right. I'd like to tell a story about Nado, a man who lives with his family in a little Bhutanese village on the border of India and Bhutan. Nado knew nothing about Jesus. He had never heard of Jesus. But one day, he and his family became seriously ill. They all came down with fevers, and after several weeks, he wondered whether his family would survive. The local priest wanted him to give an offering to an idol, but he couldn't afford it, and so he decided to resign himself to fate, and if they died, they would die. But one night when he was asleep, he dreamt that he saw a man dressed in white pointing across a field to a path and saying, "Follow that path and you will find healing and hope forever." He awakened convinced that this being was God. He didn't know God's name. He just knew it must be God. And he associated it with these people called Christians. He found a group of Christians and they came and prayed for his family, and his family was healed. And then he went to church, and church for them was not a simple matter of driving downtown. His family walked for 3 hours into the hills to the little congregation that worshiped there, the only Christians around. He and his wife joined their little group and worshiped God. But through what they learned, he felt there was something missing, and he wasn't sure what it was. Well, one day he had to go into the town for provisions, and the town was 4 hours' journey down the hillside. It's just a small town, and while he was there, he met a man who was giving out pamphlets. He took it and tucked it into his pocket, planning to read it when he got home. And when he read it, he heard about the Sabbath. He didn't know what the Sabbath was, but he began looking at the Bible texts that were listed there and looking them up in his Bible, and sure enough, it talked about the Sabbath. So the next time he went to the town, he asked this man to teach him about the Sabbath. Nadu began to wonder, what else don't I know about the Bible? And the two men arranged to have Bible studies at Nadu's home so that his family could hear the message also. Within a few months, Nadu's family decided to become Seventh-day Adventist Christians and follow what they had learned. But they didn't satisfy themselves with just believing. They went to every family, the 9 families in their village, and shared what they were learning. And soon they all became Seventh-day Adventists. Now, the part that thrills me is the fact that they are sending all 49 of their school-age children to an Adventist school 130 miles from their home. Now, they can't afford the tuition, but the school is arranged with Asian Aid to sponsor these children. And Nadu says, one day our children will become workers for God. They are being trained to become workers for God among our people here in India and perhaps in Bhutan.
Wow. Charlotte, I think you're a great believer in Christian education.
Yes, I am.
Why?
Well, I never had an opportunity to attend an Adventist school, but my children did, and I saw the difference it made in their lives. And when I go overseas and see the discipline and loving care that their teachers are giving those students, I'm convinced that any one of our schools around the world is worthy to be called Adventist mission schools.
Charlotte, when you visit places such as India and you see these new groups of believers worshiping, how does it compare with, say, in North America worship? I mean, are we exporting our style of worship? What happens?
Well, the first thing you notice, well, you may notice that some of the songs are actually the same as we sing, but the difference lies in the faces of the people. They're lit up with hope and joy. They're attentive. This is new. It's vibrant. And I come back from those trips just feeling so energized, because that's what worship should be.
Are you implying that it's not like that here, Charlotte?
We've become complacent.
Too complacent, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Charlotte, when you see Global Mission Pioneers working, how does that make you feel?
Oh, it's so humbling. They're so humble and self-abasing, and yet they care a great deal. And all they want is to share God's word with other people, one-on-one.
Fantastic. Charlotte, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Viewers at home, please pray for global mission work in India, various parts of the world. Pray for the Global Mission Pioneers who often work in very, very challenging, sometimes dangerous situations. Next up, we're going to look at growing churches in Thailand.
About 2 hours outside of Thailand's capital city, Bangkok, lies the town of Sriracha. The Seventh-day Adventist Church is growing here. This is a global mission pioneer, a church planter, dedicated to sharing God's love with the people in this area.
ที่จริงเราทุกคนที่เกิดขึ้นมาในโลกใบนี้นั้นเราเกิดขึ้นมาเพื่อพระเจ้านะครับ
This global mission pioneer and another Thai pastor visit people in their homes to teach them about Jesus. This small group is just a handful of those interested in studying God's Word. Many who attend these small groups are not Christians. They ask questions because in their hearts they see the truth of the Bible and want to know more.
When some Buddhists they are interested and would like to learn more about Christianity, actually we feel so very happy. Even they not so much, but just only 1-2 people only, but we feel like they are interested, and we thank God that.
Not long ago, this church and community center were built in Sriracha. The Global Mission Pioneer and church members reach out to the community in various ways. They run language classes, play soccer, and hold Bible studies, and people have responded positively.
We would like to provide this place for the community here around the people here that they are non-believer, and then we would like to serve the congregation by having school, having the soccer ball field, and also at the same time we have a center to service the community.
Seventh-day Adventist church members around the world help fund this church and community center. These buildings have a great impact on reaching the needs of the people in Sriracha. Just a few hours from Sriracha, in the city of Ayutthaya, another recent project funded by your mission offerings actively works to reach the community. Ayutthaya is a city known for its ancient temples and vast history. Here, centuries ago, the Burmese armies destroyed this city, leaving behind remains of destruction. Now, the church here is growing. The project here is a church building. The church here is creating a foundation of members. On this Sabbath, the pastor leads in worship and the members take part in the service. It is a special Sabbath because on this day, they will participate in communion service. Members humbly wash one another's feet and pray together. As they re-enter the church, their thoughts are with God. The members ask God for forgiveness and courage to serve Him each and every day. They eat the bread and drink the juice that represents the body and the blood of Jesus. This congregation has a passion to serve God and share Him with others. This congregation would not have a place to worship if it was not for your faithful support of mission offerings. People all over Thailand are eager to learn about Jesus. With the help of Adventist pastors and global mission pioneers, they will come to know Him. Please pray for these small projects located throughout Thailand, and thank you for your support of the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church through your 13th Sabbath offering.
It's a wonderful thing to see global mission pioneers in action. We sometimes say that these pioneers are Adventist mission's best kept secret, and they shouldn't be. Global mission pioneers are people who commit a year or more of their lives to plant a new group of believers in an unentered area among their own people. They receive just a small living stipend, and then they go out and live among the communities so that they can reach out to people and share Jesus in a practical, tangible way. As we focus on the cities, our dream is to send more pioneers into city neighborhoods to establish centers of influence and to share God's love. If you'd like to learn more about Adventist mission work around the world, you can visit at any time our website, adventistmission.org. You'll find much information there. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Gary Krause, and I hope you can join me right here next time on Mission 360.